Hello everyone, we're going to continue with where we left off in the last video. That is theme 7, the imperial capital of Vijayanagar. We were having a look at the city. We already saw the water resources that were there. We're now going to have a look at the fortifications and roads. For this we have a look at the account of another traveller whose name was Abdul Razak. Abdul Razak was a Persian traveller, and he was greatly impressed, and in fact he mentions that there were 7 lines of forts or 7 lines of defense. The various lines here, it would mean that if in the center there is the capital or the main city, there would be a fort. Then there would be some agricultural land, then there would be another fort or a walled boundary. Then there would again be something and a walled boundary, and so on and so forth. So he's mentioned a few areas here. He said agricultural land, agricultural hinterland and forest were in one area. Then the outermost walls linked surroundings of the city. And you also had a lot of square and rectangular projections that were made onto the wall. Very interestingly, he says that no mortar or no kind of cement was used to build these walls, and says the stones were cut in such a manner that they held, like puzzle blocks, they held each other in place. Gateways were built in an impressive manner and were of Indo-Islamic style. Later we'll have a look at these massive gateways. These gateways came to be known as Gopurams, and they were big in size because they depicted the strength of the king. Because the more magnificent a building is, it means the person who got it built had that much power and that much money to get it built. And the architecture, very interestingly and nicely, was both Indo and Islamic. Remember, it's a Hindu kingdom, but architecture is a mix of both cultures. Then the urban core. So please change the slide. Well, in the urban core, you could see traders. The Muslim residential quarters were also seen. Very interestingly, again, it's a Hindu kingdom, but Muslims are living here very comfortably. In fact, traveller Barbosa mentions in his accounts that he saw both small shrines and temples, indicating that a lot of different cults and beliefs were being practiced in that area. Wells and rainwater tanks were built to provide water. And he also says that the houses were thatched, but they were well built, which means they must have not been pakka houses, but they were built in a very comfortable manner. Now the next subtopic is the Royal Centre. The Royal Centre was located in the southwestern part of the settlement, and there we have found 60 temples and 30 building complexes which have been identified as palaces. 60 temples is a huge number. Why were there so many temples? Well, one thing you could say is, well, it's a Hindu kingdom, and they probably believed in their gods very strongly, and that's why they built so many temples. But another reason that you would build temples, as you understood in the last chapter in Bhakti, we saw how Bhakti in South India was promoted by the Chola kings, where they built temples for them. Similar idea here also. Not for Bhakti, but the gods they were following, that when they built a lot of temples, when they gave money for these temples, the priests gave them legitimacy to rule. So they convinced the people that your king has been given this divine order, he has divine rights, and he's your rightful king. So, kindly follow your rulers, never go against them. So it worked in a mutually beneficial manner for both the parties. We found various buildings or structures here. The first is the Mahanavami Dibba. Change the slide. So A subtopic is Mahanavami Dibba. In the Mahanavami Dibba, we find two kind of things. We find an audience hall, and we have seen the Dibba itself. These were basically platforms in the king's palace, which were surrounded by high running double walls. In the audience hall, we see a high platform with slots where wooden pillars. There are holes for these pillars, so that's we're guessing they were wooden pillars. And also, there is a staircase which led to the second floor. The Mahanavami Dibba is a very important structure because it's a platform which rises 11,000 square feet I mean, it rises to a height of 40 feet and it's as big as 11,000 square feet in its base. This base has relief carvings or sculptures have been made there in that base. These sculptures had various pictures. They also depicted a lot of people, and these people had different features. The features were Central Asian, so we believe that people from Central Asian Turks were coming here and working. The Dibba was important because Dussehra, Durga Puja and Navratri was also known as, or is known as Mahanavami. They were celebrated here, and thus the Mahanavami Dibba. Another important structure we have found is the Lotus Temple. Kindly change the slide. Also during the ceremonies that were performed on Mahanavami Dibba, we would see worshipping of images, image worship of the state horse, and also probably sacrifice of buffaloes and other animals. The next structure is the Lotus Mahal. We need to remember how this, we're not very sure why this was used. However, this name that it's been given is a very romantic name, that probably you think it's resembling a structure of a lotus in some form, and so you give it a name of a Lotus Mahal. Beautiful piece of structure. And Colonel Mackenzie, he came to the conclusion that it was probably used as a council chamber where the king and his advisors met. Another piece of structure that we found is the Hazara Ram temple. It's believed that it was probably used only by the king and his family, and very beautifully the inner walls of this Hazara Rama temple have sculptures from the Ramayana. Alright, we're going to stop here. And in the next video, we're going to continue with the rest of the chapter. Thank you.